Hello, welcome to the Black and White Podcast, episode 12. I'm Josh, joined by my co-host, Josh.
Hello.
And we're really excited to get into the games and start talking to you about all the happenings of the NFL in the past week. It's been kind of weird with some COVID stuff, and we still have the Ravens game tomorrow, actually. Today is Tuesday, December 1st, Christmas 1st. And, so we can't... We're not doing so much of a Ravens section this week just because they haven't played yet. Yep. And we really, just with our schedules, this is the only night we can really do the podcast, so we couldn't really wait. But we have a lot of other games to talk about, or a couple other games to talk about, and a new segment that we're adding.
Yes,
courtesy of my co-host, Josh. So excited to get into that. And maybe I think we have like one injury that we're talking about.
Yeah. Still a pretty good week of football, though. All in all, we had saw some not really any major injuries, but we had some games that were close, but some that were blowouts. But
and a few games that were close on paper, but not actually close in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So and then one thing that we just have to bring up, and it's part of the injuries that it's one of the only injuries we're going to talk about, maybe the only one, Daniel Jones. So we just made a discovery actually right before we started recording, and it was Daniel Jones's nickname. And I'll only be referring to Daniel Jones now as Danny Dimes. It's his nickname, and Danny Dimes, he was asked about it, and he said, "It's okay, I guess. There could be worse nicknames." So he loves it. So he had a bit of an injury last week. It looked pretty serious, or at least people were saying it was going to be. Thankfully, an MRI confirmed it wasn't too bad. It was a strained hamstring. It's kind of an unknown timetable for his return, but we wish him well because... Yeah. He's Danny Dimes.
It's a name. Come on.
Yeah, he's Danny Dimes. So the Giants, they're
not playing that great. The Giants aren't playing well at all. But, once we find out that a guy's name is Danny Dimes, we have to recognize, give respect to where it's due.
Yeah, you can't not love Danny Dimes. And, I mean, whether he's an elite player or not is debatable. Actually, it's not debatable. He's not elite right now. But his nickname is pretty elite. Yes. So, you gotta love it.
Yeah, we really wish Danny Dimes well.
Yeah,
we hope that he comes back, and we'll have Saquon next year too. So,
yeah,
hopefully the Giants can come back full force next year.
But, should we hop into our new segment?
We can hop into the super spicy hot players of the week.
Yes, and what makes this different from the Simply Splendid players is this a little bit more of just stats in general.
Statistical, yeah.
Whereas Simply Splendid is kind of more fantasy based. Mm-hmm. And we're doing 2 players each, and we're just kind of picking out the players that they're super spicy hot this week and who just went off. And so do you want to go first since it is your birth child?
Will say the first super spicy hot player of the week is, of course, DK Metcalf.
Of course.
He had 10 catches, 177 yards. He always continues to impress, and he did it last night on Monday Night Football against Darius Slay, and, he really showed that don't make DK Metcalf angry, because when he does, he had 10 catches, 13 targets, 177 yards, and he actually leads the NFL in receiving yards at 1,039 and 9 touchdowns. So he's killing it every time he goes out on the field.
Yeah, 2 fun facts. One is DK Metcalf is the fastest player in Seahawks history to reach 1,000 yards. He did it in 11 games. The previous record holder did it in 13 games, so he did it 2 games quicker, which is absolutely nuts. You just know that he's going to go, like, once he gets in that rhythm, he's going to go off because no one can stop him. He's just that good, and he's so good. And Doug Peterson, I guess, I don't know when exactly it was said, but he was saying, like, and I mean, I do kind of agree with him, but he was saying, like, you're not at Megatron levels yet. which is understandable because he's new and Megatron is the highest standard of receiver. But DK Metcalf said that it made him angry, and he showed it on the field because he balled out.
He did,
and he consistently balls out. And it's not that he doesn't have competition. He's got other great receivers in that offense, and
he's got Tyler Lockett, but he shows that he's really the 1A receiver in the receiving core. And
Tyler Lockett is a good compliment to him. But
yeah,
he's the guy,
mm-hmm.
and he can beat a lot of corners. He's a dangerous receiver. He's a lot of fun to watch, and he's incredible.
Yeah,
really incredible.
What about you? Who's your next player?
So my super spicy hot player of the week is Tyreek Hill. He had 13 catches, 269 yards, not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns. It's hard to score a touchdown in the NFL. It's incredibly difficult to score 3. Mm. And every time you looked at the TV, Tyreek Hill was either catching a bomb, making some insane play, or catching a touchdown. Yeah. And it was nuts. So, he had one of the best games, literally, that I've seen. 269 yards. That's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. And against Tampa Bay's defense, who is no joke, they're pretty good. It's crazy. He just balled out. It was a great week for receivers. DK Metcalf and Tyreek Hill both just went off. It was just insane. I feel like Tyreek Hill has really taken the next step this year and just been more of a consistent receiver for the Chiefs. And what's crazy is that the Chiefs not only have Tyreek Hill as a leading receiver, they also have Travis Kelce, who's not far behind Tyreek Hill.
900 yards himself.
Yeah, so it's just the fact that they have 2 players on their offense that are almost either over 1,000 yards or just about 1,000 yards is insane. And so, like DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill has some competition, but he's their guy. He's the number 1 guy. Mm-hmm. He's 1A. Travis Kelce's 1B, I would say.
Basically.
But he's incredible. So much fun to watch. And it just seems like he's just getting better. And him and Pat Mahomes, they just really have chemistry that is just you long for in a receiver quarterback duo. And he's just so fast. And I could say so many good things about him, but I'll stop there. But just incredible. So much fun to watch.
Yeah, he's a great player. And another, we're gonna do 2 super spicy hot players. Mm-hmm. So my next super spicy hot player, which is really not far off from DK Metcalf, is Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is, kind of suffered in Cleveland. Unfortunately, because
really
Baker Mayfield's offense, the way the offense is run, is tight end dominant, and so he just doesn't get as many catches. He's doing a lot of blocking, but he's had some underwhelming games. But Jarvis Landry had 8 catches for 143 yards and a touchdown on Sunday. So
that's really good.
He just is starting to produce, and maybe Baker Mayfield, if he can get him the ball more, can produce more, especially with Odell Beckham Jr. out for the rest of the season and maybe even beyond that. So we'll see what happens with Jarvis Landry, but great. He's just so super spicy hot.
Yeah, he had an incredible week. If he keeps this up, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Odell because, maybe they just don't re-sign Odell since if Jarvis just decides to, take off while he's not there.
Yeah,
maybe
they could try to trade him for sure. We'll see.
Yeah, but he had the best game of the year for him, and hopefully he continues. My second one is actually a running back. Mm-hmm. Not shocking. Derrick Henry.
Of course.
He had 27 attempts for 178 yards, and again, not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns. Insane.
You got to think with threes here.
Yeah, I know. 2 players with 3 touchdowns. And the crazy part is, he had 178 yards. He almost had 200 yards, and this isn't the first time. He broke 200 yards in week 6 against Houston. Mm-hmm. So it's just he's an incredible running back who is just so hard to take down. He bulldozes people. He's a big-bodied running back, and he is a lot of fun to watch, very frustrating to play against, and just he's a mean running back. And he's, like I said, I was very wrong about him in the offseason. I thought he might have been a 1-year thing, but he is an incredible running back. Anything I said bad about him, I take back. He's a great running back. He's really the reason behind Tennessee's success, I would say. Yeah. Ryan Tannehill is a really good quarterback now, but Derrick Henry is the reason their offense is what it is. Like, he's taken it pretty much just on his back and just carried them.
Yeah, Derrick Henry is a great running back, and he continues to produce every single week, and when he does, produce, he really gets going, especially in the later quarters. He breaks down defenses. The Titans look like they're serious contenders this year.
They really do, yeah. Which is, cool to see. Cool to see new teams. He has 12 touchdowns on the season. The past 3 weeks he has 178 yards, 133, and 103. It's just one of those where he just, like you said, he wears down the defense. At a certain point, the defense gets tired, and he doesn't. He just keeps running them over. So there's just no way he's not a super spicy hot player of the week, and he almost is weekly. It's just insane. Yeah. So, without a doubt, he's probably about 80% of their offense. Him and A.J. Brown are like two just incredible players. But, he's that guy, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
But with that, are we moving on to games?
Yeah, we'll hop right into some games.
All right. I'm going to talk about a game that I picked it just so I could just go in on the Eagles. I picked the Seahawks-Eagles. It was slightly close in like the first half. And then the Seahawks kind of got their footing and started running away with it. I'd say started walking away with it. They never were like...
Slightly.
Yeah, I think in like the fourth quarter they kind of put them away, but it took them a while. But the reason the Eagles were really in it was because of their defense. They played really well. The Eagles did really well at kind of just containing the Seahawks, especially for that first half. And, the problem is that, your defense can only be so good. If you're constantly going 3 and out, your defense is going to start giving up stuff. So this whole loss, I think, for the Eagles, you can just pin on Carson Wentz. That and maybe like the line, the offensive line. Carson Wentz remains the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. I think he was sacked, 6 times last night? Something like that. So he gets hit a lot, but the problem is he's just not good.
Poor.
He's not good. He looks at, he goes one read, throws it to him, or gets sacked. I feel like that's pretty much his thing.
Yep.
They don't use Miles Sanders. They barely use Boston Scott, 2 very good running backs, so they just don't get in the game. Miles Sanders had 6 carries. That's it. Boston Scott had 2. They went 15 and 7 yards. Miles Sanders went 15. Boston Scott went 7. Corey Clement, 1 carry. Carson Wentz led the team in rushing. That's how you know their game plan was wrong. He had 42 yards. And it's just... I hate Carson Wentz so much. He's just so bad.
Yeah, he really didn't show us much there last night. But I think that the Eagles, if their line has suffered, but Carson Wentz just looks like he's just not making throws. He's not seeing reads. So if this continues, we'll see if Jalen Hurts can get into the quarterback position. But at this point, as we've discussed earlier with Carson Wentz's contract situation, it may not even make sense for them to even go away from him. So
yeah, because next year I believe it's $54 million that he, like a cap hit of $54 million from him, and the year after is 20-some million. So they're really kind of stuck for the next 2 years. And I don't think they're going to be able to trade him away to anyone with that contract. And they put in Jalen Hurts for like a play, and that was it. Like, why not give him a full series at least? He went in, he completed a pass, which was almost more than anything Carson Wentz had done to that point.
At this point, yeah.
And then they just pulled him. It made no sense. And it's not like he doesn't have any help. Dallas Goedert, 7 receptions, 75 yards on a touchdown. Not bad for a tight end at all. Richard Rodgers, 3 receptions, 53 yards on a touchdown. Boston Scott got a little bit into the passing game. Yeah. Yeah, because Richard Rodgers had that, like, last-second catch, Hail Mary. Yeah, it was fun to watch, but it definitely padded the stats. Travis Fulgham, this is one of the reasons that Carson Wentz annoys the crap out of me. Travis Fulgham is a great receiver. He showed that he's a great receiver for weeks on end while everyone was injured. But as soon as a new receiver comes into the mix, Carson Wentz just forgets about Travis Fulgham, forgets about everything he's done, and just goes for the shiny new receiver. And it's like, bro, get Travis Fulgham into the game plan. Like, he's a great receiver. Like, what are you doing? Why aren't you throwing to him?
Yeah.
And it's like, it just makes no sense to me. And the problem is, Travis Fulgham, 2 catches, 16 yards. Alshon Jeffrey, 2 catches, 15 yards. Jalen Reagor, 3 catches, 11 yards. How? That's literally a great receiving core. How do you... I mean, that's like, what, less than 40 yards between the 3 of them?
The Eagles need to be better than that for sure.
It makes no sense. I don't understand it. It boggles my mind, their game plan. And then Miles Sanders with 6 carries. He's a great running back. And so is Boston Scott. He's also a great... I mean, they both shown that they can be really good.
Yeah. And
they're just not using their weapons. And Carson Wentz, there were so many instances where there were receivers that were just wide open. They might have taken a little bit to get open at times. But there were some plays where there were touchdowns if he threw it to him. If he threw it to him in stride, if he even threw it to him, period. They were just so wide open, running with so much open field. And he just didn't even look at him. He would just go for the check down. He would just go for like that. And it's just, what are you doing? So, the Eagles got to figure out what they're doing. I don't know what's going on in Doug Peterson's head or what's going on with that organization. I'm just glad I'm not an Eagles fan because, my God, they're so frustrating to watch.
I think that the Eagles will get better. Hopefully, they get a new signal caller. But I'm sorry. Hopefully they'll get it. Hopefully they'll get a new offensive coordinator. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Carson Wentz went 25 for 45, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Not great. He got 2 touchdowns, but a lot of that is literally from like that last play.
Yeah.
So the score looks a lot like it was a lot closer than what it was. On the other side of the ball with the Seahawks, Russell Wilson had a decent night. Nothing crazy, really. He had a slow start and just kind of didn't do a whole lot. 22 for 31, 230 yards and a touchdown. So, he's come down to earth a little bit since the beginning of the season. We were all talking about, MVP stuff, but I feel like he's kind of dropped from those talks some.
Yeah.
He had some help with Chris Carson, who had 41 yards on the ground and a touchdown.
It's good to have him back, too.
Yeah, for sure. Because
they helped their offense a lot.
Yeah, they were struggling with running backs. They really were. So, they got that. Carlos Hyde didn't do much, but he had 22 yards on 15 carries. He really didn't do much. He averaged 1.5 yards. DK Metcalf, of course, had 177 yards on 10 receptions, as we talked about earlier.
Yep.
He just went off. But it's crazy because you see 10 receptions, 177 yards. The number 2 receiver was Tyler Lockett with 3 receptions and 23 yards. So there's a huge drop off there. DK Metcalf was the guy last night. He was the one who was just bailing, Russell Wilson out of any situation he was in. But and I mean their defense played pretty well too. They got to Carson Wentz a decent amount, and it was a fun game to watch. It was probably better than it should have been, but at the same time, it wasn't a very good game. If that makes sense, like it was kind of entertaining, but at the same time, it was really sad because the Eagles, man.
The Eagles just played so poorly, but. We'll see if they can contend because they're still not out of the NFC East.
Crazy.
So the NFC East is really bad. So they're still only a game back. But
yeah, I props to the Eagles defense for keeping them in the game because that's really the only thing that kept them in there.
Yeah, the Eagles defense was not great against DK Metcalf, obviously.
No,
but they were still good against. They still played well in general, at least. Bending but not breaking.
Yeah, because the Eagles were almost in the game for most of the game. Like, they were still in it, which is crazy, seeing how poorly they played. Yeah. At least on offense. But, they did what they could, but it was certainly not enough.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Now we'll go to the Buffalo Bills and Los Angeles Chargers. The game was honestly not too competitive. I'd say the most crazy thing about this game, which is the most that makes it worth watching. I mean, the most that makes it worth talking about is at the end of the game, the Chargers were actually coming back. They were really making a big stand. Justin Herbert, he didn't have a great game, but they were really trying to drive down the field. So they're at the 46-yard line, and Justin Herbert just throws a bomb all the way to the 1-yard line and a catch by Guyton to the Buffalo 1-yard line. But wait, there's a penalty. 10-yard offensive pass interference call. So it comes all the way back. So they get it's 4th and 27 at the Chargers' own 43. Justin Herbert comes back, cocks back all the way back down the field, 55 yards to Ty Johnson to the Buffalo 2-yard line.
Insane.
With a minute left. They run down the field, and what does Los Angeles do? They try to run it with Austin Eckler, and he gets stuffed. But by this time, the game's over. But very entertaining end to the game.
That's crazy.
The Chargers didn't really play well, but we kind of assumed that the Buffalo Bills were going to win this game. Buffalo's just the better team. Josh Allen, 18-24, 157 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Herbert threw all over the field, had 31 of 52, 316 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, wow.
But also had an interception. Austin Eckler he had himself a decent week. He had 11 receptions for 85 yards, which led the team, and also had 14 carries for 44 yards. So it was a good return for Austin Eckler.
Oh, yeah.
It was good to see him come back. I mean, personally for me, but in general, it was really good to see him come back. The Devin Singletary for Buffalo, he had 11 carries on 82 yards, so he actually had a pretty good day.
Yeah, especially for Singletary.
Yeah, exactly. So, because that's one thing that we've been saying in past podcasts, that we feel as if maybe if Buffalo's rushing game was a little bit better, maybe if they worked on that, then they could become more of a complete team ready for the playoffs at 8-3. So for Buffalo, this is just another game just to prove, hey, we're still one of the better teams. And it looks like the Buffalo Bills are definitely on their way to winning the AFC East.
Yep.
As for the Chargers, they're 3-8. This season has been a little underwhelming, but now that they just got Austin Eckler back, they have a little bit more hope, and they'll definitely be better next season.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Justin Herbert, he's a lot of fun to watch, and I think he's definitely the real deal, and he just gives a lot of hope to the Chargers franchise, and he's definitely someone to build around, and he's going to be a lot of fun to watch, as we've said before in podcasts. Just the fact that, he stayed in the game, like you said, until like the last minute, it really came down to that, and just having Austin Eckler back is a huge boost to them, it really is. So that's good for them. I like you said, I think we all thought the Bills would probably win it, but the Chargers, they put up a good fight, and it's nice to see just the Bills actually good and like consistently good. We saw last year that we kind of thought they kind of be here at this point in the year, like this year. We thought they'd be a playoff team, and they've really shown that they are. And like you said, maybe they're finally starting to figure out that running game with Singletary, Zach Moss. It's not like they don't have running backs to do it. They just have to figure it out and figure out who their guy is. Yeah. But with a balanced attack, they're really good. And it's crazy because they didn't have John Brown either. So it was just Stephon Diggs, and he didn't do a whole lot, did he?
Yeah, Stephon Diggs had 7 receptions. He had 39 yards. So, he didn't really do too much, only 5.6 per carry. Gabriel Davis actually out-received him, but he had only 3 receptions.
Yeah, so it was a hard-fought game. Like you said, it came down to the end, very entertaining. I think, both teams really have a lot to look forward to in their futures. Yeah. Like you said, the Bills are, surefire playoff team, and they're probably going to make some noise in the playoffs. They're a team that, I don't really want to face. Not that, I'm scared of any team, but they're just one of those teams that are poised to make some noise. And, the Chargers, like, next year, I could definitely see them being a playoff team. I could definitely see that. Yeah. Especially if they draft right. So, great game. And 2 really great teams. Even they're better than their 3-8 record, I think, the Chargers.
Yeah. They just had some close games.
Yeah. So, This week we're just doing one pass game and one prediction game, just to streamline the podcast a bit. And we're gonna move on to predictions, and I chose the Rams and Cardinals. Both these teams are coming off a loss. They both lost by 3 points, and they both have very similar records: 7-4 for the Rams, and the Cardinals 6-5. So they both really need a win. They do, and
especially for the division, because this Seattle keeps on winning.
Yeah.
And so they really need, those two teams have to keep up. So this is a crucial division game.
Yeah, for sure. So it really should be a pretty great game. We saw Jared Goff last week. He didn't have a touchdown. He had 2 interceptions. He had some problems with, not turning over the ball. Yeah. And those 2 interceptions were pretty costly. The only touchdown came from Cam Akers with a rushing touchdown. Jared Goff didn't do much. He had 198 yards, 19 for 31. Jared Goff is really going to have to just focus on not turning the ball over. And he's going to have to just get a little bit better and just kind of hone in on what he's doing. Robert Woods had 80 yards on 7 receptions. So, he had a good game. Cooper Kupp had a decent game. So hopefully they'll show up for this game. They're gonna have to. Cam Akers is gonna have to do pretty well. He did all right last week. He had 84 yards and a touchdown. He's gonna have to, do that again this week. The Arizona defense, it's all right. It's not like great, but it's not terrible. So we'll see. We'll see if Jared Goff has what it takes. With the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, last week he really did not have a good game at all. He went 23 for 34, 170 yards and an interception. So both these quarterbacks didn't get a touchdown last week.
They need big rebound games.
Yeah, very big rebound games. The problem with Kyler Murray is maybe you can say it's his shoulder because he kind of had that injury. Maybe that's what it was. He didn't do a whole lot on his feet, though, which is something that Kyler Murray typically does. He only had 5 carries for 31 yards, and usually he's a little bit more mobile. So it was interesting to see him not doing as much. And I feel like we might see a bit more of a mobile Kyler Murray this week. DeAndre Hopkins, he's got to step up. He hasn't been that. He had that incredible catch a few weeks ago, but he hasn't been like amazing like we're used to seeing him in the past couple weeks. So he's going to have a rebound game as well and really help out Kyler Murray. Kenyon Drake, he did pretty well. You can't put this on their loss on him. He had 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they're gonna need that running game. Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds are a good 1-2. So they're gonna need to kind of rely on them. But like I said, the passing game is really going to have to improve if they want to win. Oh, yeah. So, it's really both quarterbacks is kind of up to. It's kind of up to their play and just what they can do. Because they just, last week, both had duds. And it's going to be 2 teams trying to rebound. And it's going to be a division game. So, they know each other pretty well. It should be a really fun game to watch. I'm very excited for it.
So, who do you think wins?
I think the Cardinals are going to win. I don't think Kyler Murray has 2 dud games. He's just too good. Jared Goff has always been kind of inconsistent. And I think Kyler Murray is going to pull it out. DeAndre Hopkins, I just can't see him just staying subpar for long. He's just too good, just like Kyler Murray. And so they're starting to get their running game. Kenyon Drake's starting to, produce and stuff, which is nice. And the Rams, I just feel like they're so inconsistent. I don't know. It's hard for me to trust the Rams just personally. I don't know. Jared Goff I don't know. You just never know what Jared Goff you're going to get.
Sometimes Jared Goff is a little bit below average.
Yeah, I feel like when he's on, but you just don't know what Rams you're going to get. There's kind of like the Ravens of old. You never knew just what team you're going to get. And I feel like that's kind of the same with the Rams. When you look at the teams they've beaten and lost to, they're kind of just all over the place. They have a decent record, but it's just, just inconsistencies.
The Rams are just so inconsistent, but I actually disagree. I think the Rams will get the win. I think that Aaron Donald is going to really get after Kyler Murray, and I think that the Rams need this win. And I don't know. I think that the Rams may be 1 or 2 steps a little bit ahead of the Cardinals. Okay. So I see the Rams. Obviously, this game looks like it's going to be close on paper. But I do see the Rams winning. So
okay, yeah, we'll see. It should be fun.
Yeah. The next game we'll go to is actually the Cleveland Browns at the Tennessee Titans. This is a marquee matchup here because it's big for even us as Ravens fans, because if we do potentially lose the game tomorrow, but we're not sure. But if we do, then we're going to probably need some help to get into the playoffs regardless. So either one of these teams losing is good for us, but probably the Browns losing is best. But I will say this game will be a very nuts game with three great running backs with Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and Derrick Henry. And it'll be a treat to see who really enforces their will on Sunday and who really is the better team, because Baker has been a little bit underwhelming in past weeks, and they did get the win this week against Jacksonville, but it was a little less comfortable than Cleveland players and also fans would have liked to admit. So Cleveland really needs a good rebound game. I don't see them actually winning this game, though. I think Tennessee will win the game. Tennessee is just a little bit, I think they're just a little bit ahead of the spot, ahead of Cleveland, and Cleveland really had some fortunate scheduling. So I think I see Tennessee winning the game.
Yeah, it's interesting because both these teams they're kind of similar, really, at least for their offenses. Because you see Tannehill and Baker Mayfield, they're just kind of doing what they have to do. And the rushing game is really the star of the offense because you have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, two amazing running backs. And they're kind of just, keeping Baker in games, or they're just giving him that support that he needs. On the other side, Ryan Tannehill, he's pretty good, but
23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions this year. So
he's pretty good. But his yardage is never super crazy. Like his yards that
he's 2,600.
So so it's
500 more than Baker, but still.
Yeah, I certainly think I'm a big fan of Ryan Tannehill. I think I just love that he went to the Titans. Has been pretty good, but I feel like he does usually just enough, and Derrick Henry just kind of just takes it home and does the just heavy work. And it's kind of the same with the Browns. It's going to be they're two very run heavy teams.
Oh, definitely.
And it's going to be just like you said, it's going to be two teams, just whoever just wants it more really with the running backs. And it's going to be interesting to see how the defenses, prepare for these running backs and what they do. I do agree that I think the Titans will win. I just think they're a better team. They just have so many weapons, and I think Tannehill's better than Baker, at least right now. And I don't see the Browns winning, and I don't want the Browns to win just because as a Ravens fan.
The Titans are definitely the better team.
But yeah, I think the Titans are better, and I think it could be somewhat close, but I just kind of see the Titans kind of just taking hold of the game and just kind of, winning decently. Because, the Browns just barely beat the Jaguars. The Titans are way better than the Jaguars. So it's one of those things that, both teams, I guess you could argue, have been... Well, no, I wouldn't even say the Titans have been inconsistent, really. But the Browns have been relatively inconsistent at times. So I'm going to give this one to the Titans for sure. So that does it for our games this week. We aren't really going into the Ravens because, like we said previously, they
don't
play
till tomorrow for us.
Yeah, last game they played was, a little bit sloppy and whatever. So yeah, we're not really going to have a Ravens segment this week. Next week, don't worry, we will.
Hopefully we win that game.
So the one thing we'll say about the Ravens is just with COVID and everything, just been a crazy week with that game being pushed 3 times. And then next week it's on Tuesday. So we'll figure out how to do the pod. We want to keep doing Ravens sections. It's just a weird year with COVID and whatnot.
Yeah. With that, we'll move to the Simply Splendid Player of the Week. And I have a Simply Splendid Player of the Week. I wouldn't say that he was overly splendid, but he was splendid for me, and that's Austin Eckler, because he's been out since week 4. He's been 8 weeks I've missed him. He had 14 carries for 44 yards, which isn't great, but he had 11 receptions on 85 yards, but he also had 16 targets, which is insane for a player just coming back from injury.
It really is.
So really, Austin Eckler never even missed a beat, kept the team in the game, And I mean, really, he is simply splendid, getting 23.9 points on his first game back.
Fantastic running back. A must start every week, and he really, really plays super well anytime he's on the field. Mm-hmm. My Simply Splendid player of the week is also a running back. Mm-hmm. It is Antonio Gibson. He played on Thanksgiving and against Dallas, and he had 115 yards on 20 attempts, and again, not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns. We're keeping with the theme. He had 36.6 fantasy points, and he just went off. He really did. He's a great player. He had the best game of the year on Thanksgiving, but I mean, really, he's been pretty solid all year. But this week, he went off, and Dallas couldn't do anything about it. And he was a lot of fun to watch, and a highlight of that Washington team.
Yeah.
So
Washington football team is it could be good. We'll see if they maybe can sneak into that bad NFC East.
Like you said the other day when we were talking about them, maybe they're kind of rounding out to being, the team that ends up winning that division. Yeah. And I mean, they have the talent, and Antonio Gibson will certainly help them get there if they do. Yeah. So yeah, him. I have a 1A, 1B just because I just want to shout out Young Hoku. He got 21 fantasy points, and he just consistently gets a lot of points, like 15 to like 20. It's just insane. But yeah, those are probably my Simply Splendid players of the week, and
excellent.
Yeah, just a lot of fun to watch. I also made sure not to copy the Super Spicy Hot players of the week, so any of those players could have been the Simply Splendid players, but I wanted to get someone new.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's everything for today. It was a lot of fun to talk about all these games. Looking forward to the next week. We appreciate you guys listening to us. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and check out our Patreon, all the tiers, and just, take a look at that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun talking to you, and look forward to next week's episode.
Yes, thank you for listening. We appreciate it.